You look at your contact list, or perhaps an old photo album, and you notice something that might initially feel disturbing. Your circle is shrinking. Where there was once noise, chaos, and a crowd of faces, there is now predominantly silence. For years, society has conditioned us to interpret this reduction as a failure. We are told that popularity is the currency of success, and that isolation is a symptom of a social defect, an inability to connect, a lack of charisma, or perhaps something broken deep within your personality. You might have asked yourself, in moments of quiet doubt, is there something wrong with me? Why do I find it so hard to maintain the friendships that seem to come so easily to everyone else? But consider this alternative perspective. What if the emptiness around you isn't a sign of a deficit, but evidence of a sophisticated filtering mechanism? What if having few friends isn't a failure of your social skills, but a triumph of your self-awareness? Most people never realize that as the mind matures and deepens, it naturally begins to reject the superficial. If you feel like you no longer belong in the majority of groups you once tolerated, this is not an error in your system. It is a software update. It is a sign that your mind is operating on a different code, one that prioritizes truth over comfort. 1. The visceral intolerance to social performance. The first indicator that your solitude is a choice rather than a curse is a physical reaction to inauthenticity. We often confuse this with shyness or arrogance, but it is actually a heightened sensitivity to what sociologists like Irving Goffman call dramaturgy, the theatrical performance of everyday life. Most social interactions rely on a script. People put on masks, they feign interest, they laugh at jokes they don't find funny, and they nod at opinions they don't agree with, all to maintain the social lubricant of politeness. For the majority, this is just how the game is played. But for you, this performance induces a state of cognitive dissonance. As your self-awareness increases, your tolerance for this gap, the distance between who a person is and who they are pretending to be, drops to zero. You possess a built-in lie detector. When you are in a room filled with gossip, status signaling, or performative virtue, you don't just feel bored, you feel a visceral exhaustion. Your brain identifies the interaction as low-value noise. Consequently, you find yourself retreating, not because you fear people, but because you refuse to participate in the play. You would rather sit in the authentic silence of an empty room than exhaust your energy sustaining a character that isn't you. You have stopped performing, and as a result, the audience has left. This is not a loss, it is a purification. 2. The biological aversion to superficiality, quality over quantity. The second pillar of this mindset is a neurological intolerance for small talk. Have you ever felt your battery drain instantly the moment a conversation shifts to the weather, celebrity news, or the trivial repetition of daily events? This isn't just a preference, it is a metabolic reaction. Minds that are wired for what we call cognitive substance operate with a different economy of attention. Your brain craves high-density information. It seeks to explore abstract theories, psychological undercurrents, the nature of fear, or the architecture of the future. When you are forced to linger in the shallow end of the conversational pool, your brain effectively begins to starve. You interpret small talk as interference, static noise that blocks the signal of genuine connection. If an interaction does not offer depth, if it does not challenge a perspective or reveal a vulnerability, your mind classifies it as a waste of temporal resources. This leads to a ruthless subconscious filtering process. You naturally discard connections that remain on the surface. To the outside observer, you appear distant. In reality, you are simply preserving your bandwidth for the few connections that actually matter. You are not antisocial. You are deeply selective. You require a connection to be real before you allow it to consume your time. 3. The metabolic cost of interaction. High social sensitivity. This brings us to the third factor, which is often the most misunderstood: the energetic cost of socializing. There is a prevailing myth that if you are good with people, you should be able to socialize indefinitely. But for the highly perceptive individual, the cost of interaction is significantly higher than it is for the average person. This is due to sensory processing sensitivity. When an extrovert enters a room, they might scan for familiar faces. When you enter a room, you are likely processing the lighting, the tone of voice in a conversation across the room, the micro-expressions of tension on someone's face, and the emotional subtext of what is not being said. You are not just listening, you are decoding. Your brain is running a high-intensity analysis of your environment, constantly. This is why 2 hours of socializing might leave you feeling as exhausted as a full day of physical labor. It is a metabolic expense. Therefore, your isolation is often a necessary biological recovery period. You pull away, not because you dislike humanity, but because your system needs to reboot. You are protecting your energy in a world that demands you burn it constantly. While others see your absence as a snub, you know it is an act of self-preservation. Fourth radical: self-sufficiency, low social dependence. The fourth sign is perhaps the most powerful. You have broken the addiction to external validation. From childhood, we are taught that our value is a reflection of how many people like us. We use others as mirrors to see ourselves. However, the solitary individual has developed a mechanism of internal regulation. You have learned to generate your own dopamine. You can be alone for days, entertaining yourself with complex problems, books, creative projects, or simply the architecture of your own thoughts, without feeling the itch of loneliness. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, in his Counsels and Maxims, famously noted, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free." You have embodied this freedom, because you do not need others to tell you that you are interesting, or smart, or worthy. Your standards for letting people into your life skyrocket. You don't need them to fill a void. You only want them if they add value to an already complete existence. This makes you intimidating to those who use relationships as crutches, but it makes you incredibly valuable to the few who can meet you at that level. 5. The Zero Trust Security Protocol. We must address the mechanism of trust. For many with small circles, the past has served as a harsh teacher. You likely possess a high pattern recognition ability, which means you spot inconsistencies in behavior long before others do. You have likely experienced betrayal or simply observed the transactional nature of most modern relationships, and in response, you have built a zero-trust protocol. This is not about cynicism. It is about risk management. You do not grant trust as a gift. You treat it as a loan that must be repaid with consistency over time. You observe. You test. You wait. You watch how people treat others when they think no one is looking. You watch how they handle secrets. You watch how they manage conflict. While the world rushes to call everyone a friend after one drink, you keep the gates of your fortress closed until you are certain. This keeps your circle small, yes, but it also keeps it impregnable. The people who remain in your life are not there by accident. They are there because they survived the vetting process. They are the few who proved they could handle the weight of your loyalty. If you have recognized yourself in these descriptions, I want you to understand one thing clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. We live in a world designed for the extrovert, for the fast-paced, for the superficial, and for the quantity obsessed. But your mind was designed for something else. It was designed for depth. It was designed for truth. It was designed for loyalty. The discomfort you feel, that sense of being out of step with the masses, is not a defect. It is the friction of a deep mind trying to navigate a shallow world. Having few friends does not mean you are losing at the game of life. It means you have stopped playing the game of appearances. You have chosen the peace of reality over the comfort of an illusion. You have chosen to be a fortress rather than a marketplace. So do not apologize for your standards. Do not apologize for your silence. The question you should ask yourself is not, why am I so alone? The true question is, who is real enough to deserve a seat at my table? If you are part of this rare minority that values depth above popularity, you know exactly what I am talking about. This is the Mind Architect,